Thank you very much, John. Our final speaker for the evening is Tom Hunt. Tom has been a Conservative Member of Parliament for Ipswich since 2019. He is a member of the New Conservatives, as mentioned, a parliamentary group of Conservative MPs elected since the Brexit referendum in 2016, which aims to pressure the government to lower migration. Tom, you have the floor.
It's great to be back in Cambridge. I grew up in this county. I grew up in Ely down the road. I made headlines from an early age. I was the biggest baby in Ely. I was 11 pounds. I only held record for 1 week. Another big baby was born, and that was that. And then I made headlines in Ely Stand for being the next Lewis Hamilton. I was a go-karter. My dad was very good at writing press releases about how I was going to be in a Formula 1 drive. Didn't happen. And then I got elected at 22. I worked as a radish picker, briefly a leek picker, then back to a radish department because the leeks made my eyes water. I failed my driving test 4 times in Cambridge. I said it wasn't my fault, but I'm pretty sure it was. I was a bit sketch at that age, driving-wise. So now, of course, I'm a wonderful driver. But it's a great pleasure to be here. This is the second time I've debated in this fine chamber. The first time was during the Brexit referendum. Clearly, I had a fantastic effect arguing for Brexit because I think the electoral ward I'm sitting in voted 87% Remain. It was the most Remain ward in the entire country, so hopefully I can do slightly better today, though I'm not entirely sure based upon some of the floor speeches. And we really do have some wonderful speakers here today with me. Emily, somebody who generally I have a lot of respect for, even though politically we disagree. I think I also sense she's got an incredibly good sense of humour. Robert, who is singing I have witnessed at our away day. The famous away day, and 2 days later I overheard a whip saying it was a big problem because everyone was stealing dressing gowns from the hotel and slippers. My response was, I didn't realise there were slippers as well. Wonderful thing. And of course, John as well, who used to be, I remember when he was appointed as the political editor of the Mirror, I heard a Conservative MP say he was paying enough when he was at the Mail. God knows what he's going to be like at the Mirror. So I really am in fine esteem, but I'll crack straight to the point and tease out some of the key things that I think I've picked up on in this debate. One is leadership. I will unashamedly frame this as us versus Labour, because if you vote no confidence in a Conservative government, you're going to get a Labour government because of the electoral system we have. That's the reality there. So I will ask questions of the Labour Party, like I ask questions of the Labour Party in the House of Commons, and will continue to do so vociferously. I'm going to make some progress first. In terms of the leadership, I think that it's easy to forget the pandemic and the impact that had on this country, on the people of this country, and also the impact that the war in Ukraine has had on this country. But of course, not just our country, but other countries across the world, across the West, like the pandemic did. The question is, do people feel better than they did a decade ago? And the answer to that question, honestly, is most likely not. Because of the pandemic we've just gone through, and because of the war in Ukraine, and very real and tangible impact that is having on people's energy rate rises. There's also a point to look at things like furlough, something that the Chancellor himself, now Prime Minister, put together and think, oh, that was obvious, that was the obvious thing to do. It was not the obvious thing to do at the time, and there's a reason why the IMF have credited the Prime Minister with the furlough scheme and said it was world leading. I remember that time. I remember being a Member of Parliament. I'd only been a Member of Parliament for 3 months. And I had emails streaming in, just like, I'm a citizen, we were all desperately concerned. I was worried about my dad, he's in his late 70s. I was worried about everything else. We didn't know how deadly the virus was. And we all had thousands of people crying out for help, businesses that had previously been successful, about to fall over. None of this was obvious. And the Prime Minister acted with speed, he acted efficiently, he got money out of the door to keep businesses afloat and people in jobs. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the leadership that Rishi Sunak presented then. And I think he does take a stand. I think he does take a stand. I think he took a stand on inflation. I think he was right to identify inflation as a key issue. And he's been proved right. When he said that Liz Truss believed in fairy tales, he was right on that. And he showed more foresight on the economy, certainly than I have. He knows the economy more than I've got, and I trust Rishi Sunak in the economy, and he is making progress on inflation. Far away.
The OECD calculates there are about 3 million hidden unemployed, which means that the rate is really about 13%. So what do you say to that if you really notice that?
I think if you look at what he's done on inflation, he identified inflation as a key thing. It's massively heading in the right direction. I think it was encouraging that the Bank of England didn't increase interest rates this month. I think it's encouraging that the Office of National Statistics massively underestimated the extent to which we grew back after the pandemic, faster than most of the European countries. So I think it's important that we take that. But in terms of on the leadership point, when we look at Keir Starmer and we look at his flip-flopping on Brexit, he was second referendum, and then we've got to respect Brexit, but now we've got to align fully with the European Union. On Jeremy Corbyn, he was described as his friend. Keir Starmer is a principle-free zone. At least Jeremy Corbyn knew what he was believing in. At least he knew what he was believing in. But you know what? Jeremy Corbyn's probably going to have his revenge because he's going to stand as a London mayoral candidate and potentially cost Labour a so-called London city. And that tells you something about Labour's record. And apparently we've been told today that, oh, let's watch the Labour conference to see what Labour's going to be like in government. We don't need to watch the Labour government. We don't need to watch the Labour conference to know what Labour will be in government. We have so many examples. We know about their record in Wales. Their record in Wales is one of absolute failure. And we have these points about the NHS under our stewardship. It's in a better condition than the Welsh-run NHS. We hear about crime. Where is crime most out of control? It's in London. Guess what? It's run by an elected Labour mayor. We hear about Labour and finances. Let's look at some examples. Let's look at Birmingham. Both London, both Birmingham, run by Labour mayors, being run into the... Birmingham's not actually. It's got a... Birmingham City Council is run by Labour Council, being run into the ground because of Labour stewardship. And let's not forget, we've heard about austerity. Why was it necessary for us to make some cutbacks? Remember the note the last time Labour in control. Sorry, there is no money left. That is Labour financial stewardship. So absolutely I trust Rishi Sunak and the economy far more with the Labour Party. When we talk about net zero, it is right that we take a pragmatic, realistic pathway to net zero, which, by the way, is still far more ambitious than lots of other equivalent countries. And yes, I don't want us to take a German approach to saying no to nuclear energy and end up being dependent upon Russian energy. And we've seen the impact that had. He's right to think about energy security. And you know what? If we can get some British jobs along the way, fantastic. I support that. So what he said on net zero, I think it chimed with most of the country, and it's not surprising that on that specific issue, he had a backing of the majority of the public. On migration, on illegal migration, I take a really, really robust line on small boats. I think they're dangerous, I think they're wrong, and I think they're unsustainable. I've also been to, I think it is now the world's largest refugee camp 3 times since I've been a member of Parliament, the Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh. And I've met with women and children who desperately want to flee persecution. We've got to have a cap when it comes to a number of refugees. I want us to be compassionate. You might be surprised, but I think it's probably be higher than it is right now, but it's got to be controlled to take the public with us. And you know what? I just happen to think that if there is going to be a cap, we have to prioritise. And I happen to think that those women and boys and girls that I met in the Rohingya refugee camp are probably worth prioritising more than 85% single men who have crossed through multiple safe European countries where they refuse to claim asylum. So yes, I unashamedly back the Illegal Migration Act because of that. How many more minutes have we got left? 2 minutes. Defence. I've been privileged and proud as a Member of Parliament to be on the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme for the last year. The most amazing thing I did was I went to Kent and I met with Ukrainian men being trained up to go to their home country and fight to defend it. I met a man in his late 50s with stage 4 cancer. And I said to him, what made you come here? And he says, if I'm going to die fighting for my homeland. And I'm proud of the leadership that this government has provided on that defence issue, both Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak. And no, it's not obvious it would have been the same with Labour, not obvious at all. We cajoled many other European countries, and let's not forget, this is Keir Starmer who wanted Corbyn Prime Minister, Corbyn, who wouldn't even condemn Putin for the Salisbury poisoning. And we're meant to trust him, the Labour Party on defence. We're meant to trust the first speaker of a proposition who was hugging Jeremy Corbyn when he nearly became Prime Minister in 2017. Absolutely not. So, yeah, far away. Yeah. Actually, I'll take another one. It was a... Yeah, OK, yeah.
You're really putting forward the point, right? You're saying, he's taking a stand, he's really has his principles. That does not necessarily mean that he has the right principles in any way.
OK, cheers.
His kind of principles on trans rights, on the LGBT community, on Rwanda. If you want to say under any circumstances that those are morally correct stances to take, you're delusional. What the fuck?
I don't think... If you can... If you can explain to me how you would stop the boats without a deterrent, I am all ears. But I can tell you, safe and legal routes would not do it. Safe and legal routes would either be uncapped, so anyone across the world who qualifies as a refugee could apply in. That is the case if it was uncapped. And you'd be talking about unprecedented numbers. And I'm not going to explain that to their constituents about the real impact of that on public services. You talked about a capped safe and legal route. The cap would be hit fairly soon, and people wouldn't be able to apply into it. And guess what? You'd have the small boats again. There is no way you can tackle small boat crossings without a deterrent. For all of those reasons, in terms of principles, I think you've got to have principles, but of course, it helps as a voter if those principles drive positions you agree with. But principles do matter. Shifting does matter. Why does it matter? Because when, Keir Starmer doesn't know what his position is next week, never mind the next year. And that matters because you do not know what you're getting. And a vote of no confidence for a man who describes somebody as a friend and then kicks him out of the party, it's somebody who says, we accept Brexit, and then wants a second referendum. Here's a principle-free zone. So I beg you to support the government in confidence and vote against side proposition. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tom. And that concludes our debate for tonight. But a few notices before we vote. Millie B will be speaking next Tuesday. If you don't know who she is, ask Neha. And next week we'll be debating AI. Applications to be a paper speaker, such as Katie and Sam tonight, are open, and you've received them by email. The results of the debate will be announced shortly in the bar. So as you know, in this House we vote with our feet, ayes to the right, noes to the left, abstentions down the middle. The House will divide. Good night.